美国联邦众议院新设立的美国与中共战略竞争特别委员会已经定下三大议程，分别是什么呢？美国著名中国问题专家张家敦为什么认为切断与中共的贸易和投资关系至关重要？针对中共，为什么美国别无选择？朋友们好，欢迎来到辛恬面对面。如果您是干净世界的观众朋友，请别忘了点赞、关注我的频道。油管的朋友也请您点赞、订阅、打开小铃铛。美国联邦众议院两党1月中旬一致通过设立的美国与中共战略竞争特别委员会，简称中国特别委员会，或者像有些朋友们建议的叫中共特别委员会，近日定下了三大议程。有哪三大议程呢？第一，调查对台军备的支持；第二，调查备受争议的中国社交软件 TikTok； 以及第三，调查中共在美军基地的附近购买土地以建立前哨基地的问题。委员会的主席威斯康星州共和党众议员加拉格尔 Mike Gallagher 表示，委员会将在2月份启动筹备工作，最迟在3月将召开第一次的专家听证会。此外，加拉格尔还说，委员会还可能会研究美国本土产业在经济上过于依赖中国，或者是被中国资本和影响力腐蚀的领域。美国著名作家、律师、中国问题专家张家敦认为，切断与中国的商业和投资关系是美国针对中共威胁要采取的最重要的措施之一。
Well, in general, I would like to see a cutting of relationships with China, trade, investment, technical cooperation. I'd like to see the Chinese no longer own farm or ranch land in the U.S.And we need to get to the bottom of COVID-19.
他说，这些事情大部分都是总统所掌控的，但是国会是管钱的，拥有钱包的力量。那总统需要国会批准经费，如果拜登政府不配合的话，他说国会就可以截断那些资金，可以让拜登政府的日子很难过。那么，为什么切断与中共的贸易和投资关系如此重要呢？而这么做是不是实际呢？
Well, the reason why it's important is because China can't attack us unless we fund it. So if we cut off the money, we cripple its ability to harm us. Now, in terms of realistic, the ground is shifting very fast. And so what was considered impossible just a year ago is now being talked about. And that means the things that we think are impossible today could very well be on the menu tomorrow. So we just need to keep on pressing the issue. And I realize that a lot of things won't get done immediately, but we need to continue the pressure to move in the right direction. The Chinese are making this easy for us because they have done things which just offend American sensitivities. They've engaged in activities which are killing Americans with COVID-19 and fentanyl. The more we talk about this, the more it becomes practical to sever relations with China, because Americans will understand that we should not maintain relations with a regime that is killing people in this country.
张家敦举了另外一个例子，是关于投资方面的。美国联邦政府有一个节俭储蓄计划，相当于给联邦雇员的 401k 401k 退休计划，简称 TSP。他说，自从2001年以来，美国军人也加入了这项计划。但是后来发现 ，TSP 计划通过他的共同基金窗口和国际资金，把联邦雇员包括军人的钱投放到了跟中共军队有关联的公司里，其中有些公司甚至是列在了美国联邦商务部的名单上的。也就是说，如果不从商务部拿到许可证，美国公司是不可以跟这些公司做生意的。
I mean, this is insane that we can own those companies without restriction. So there was, for instance, a bill which was that people tried to attach to the National Defense Authorization Act, which eventually didn't. The bill didn't pass, but that would have prevented federal money going into those Chinese companies. Well, this is something that people are now talking about, and this is something that we need to do because this is just horrific when you think about it. I mean, it's hideous that we have members of our military are paying and putting money into companies that are developing weapons to kill members of our military. And I think that as we talk more about this, the American public will understand that this is wrong. This is morally wrong. This is strategically wrong. We're not there yet, but I think that we can get to the point where you can cut off a lot of this money flowing through TSP into China. And there are a lot of other examples like this, but this is an example which just strikes out as glaringly wrong.
中共的喉舌媒体《环球时报》宣传说，美国国会的这个中国特别委员会成立会伤害到对中国友好的美国商界、金融界人士。张家敦先生怎么看呢？
Yes, it will. But obviously, we cannot have a hostile enemy state develop constituencies in the United States if we want to keep our freedom and independence. So, yeah, of course, there's going to be a cost, but the survival of our country is far more important than the wealth of business people on Wall Street, for instance. Got to remember that the Communist Party declared a people's war, quote unquote, on the U.S. in May 2019. And we Americans, we don't take propaganda from communist states seriously, but we need to. We're Americans, so we think we're entitled to be oblivious what our enemies say about us. Just to give you an example, February 1993, terrorists detonated a bomb under the North Tower of the World Trade Center, killed 6 Americans. We couldn't care less. We couldn't care less until Osama bin Laden on 9/11 killed 2,977 Americans. And then we paid attention. So we need to pay attention to what our enemies say about us. And if our enemies say one thing, then it's pretty damn sure that we should be doing the other. So what we should be doing is taking the Global Times and doing exactly the opposite of what it wants us to do.
在国会众议院对设立委员会的投票表决前，议长麦卡锡致辞呼吁两党团结。他说：“我希望能以一致的口径专注应对中国的挑战。”他说：“中共威胁太大了，我们不能彼此内斗。”他还说：“对于未来，我们最大的担忧就是我们落后于中国。”他说：“我们对于中国的依赖所构成的危险是可怕的。”
We spent decades passing policies that welcomed China into the global system. In return, China has exported oppression, aggression, and anti-Americanism.
麦卡锡说：“今天中国的军事和经济力量不断增长，而这是以世界范围内的自由和民主为代价的。”环球时报就报道说，所以你看，美国是担心落后于中国，才成立了这样的委员会来遏制中国的发展。张家敦又是怎么看的呢？
At the end of World War II, we were the strongest nation in history. So what did we do? We had the Marshall Plan to build up Europe so they could be competitors to us. We designed a world where everybody could prosper and go stronger. And because of that, by necessity, we would become, on a relative basis, weaker. So that argument doesn't hold. China can compete with us. And as long as it competes by the rules and it succeeds, that's fine. But the point is, China is not playing by the rules. Matter of fact, it's not even competing with us within the Westphalian international system that was established in 1648 with the Treaty of Westphalia, which recognized the sovereignty of states.
张家敦所说的威斯特伐利亚合约呢，是指1648年5月到10月期间，在德意志西北部威斯特伐利亚地区所签订的一系列条约，结束了欧洲历史上有近800万人丧生的动荡时期，并为现代国际关系建立了框架。威斯特伐利亚合约呢，是基于各个主权国家共存的概念，建立了遏制国家之间的侵略战争以及反对干预别国内政准则的共识。随着欧洲影响力逐渐遍布全球，这些威斯特伐利亚原则，尤其是主权国家的概念，就逐渐流行成为国际法和世界秩序的 中心原则。
China is trying to take down that system and replace it with the imperial era notions that Chinese rulers have the mandate of heaven over Tianxia, or all under heaven. And it's not like they believe that they have the right to do it. They also believe that heaven compels them to do it. And this is the line that Xi Jinping has been taking. So they're not competing with us in the international system. They're not even trying to adjust that system so it's more to China's liking. What they're trying to do is to destroy that system, which means that China's revolutionary. So that is obviously unacceptable. They want to compete, that's fine, but they got to do what everybody else does, which is play by the rules.
在同一篇《环球时报》的报道中说，国会众议院建立这个特别委员会，是因为美国政治极化、社会撕裂，所以企图寻找一个外部威胁来把两党团结起来。张家敦怎么看？
The two parties are united not because they want to counter China. They want to unite because they need to counter China. China with COVID-19, which it deliberately spread beyond its borders by backing the fentanyl gangs, is killing Americans. It is pushing, it's glorifying drug use, pushing critical race theory, stealing hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. intellectual property each year. Obviously, we have to defend ourselves. And that's why there is a consensus among the two parties. This is important for us. And, when an attacking party says you shouldn't defend yourself, well, you probably should defend yourself.
张家敦说
The United States worked very hard for decades to integrate China into the international system. So we strengthened China on the hopes that as the country got stronger, it would become benign. It would recognize that it has a stake in supporting the international system. But that didn't happen. What happened is, as we supported China became hostile and belligerent. Communist Party decided that it wanted to take down the United States. So obviously we have to change course. And yes, there will be chaos, but that's not because of us. That's because of China.
也有一些民主党议员对于成立这个特别委员会持保留意见，其中呢，22位激进派民主党议员还发布声明称，尽管美国对中共威胁是合理的担忧，但是他们反对成立这个委员会呢，是因为担心仇外言论会加剧美国国内的反亚裔仇恨。
There's no evidence that people who want to defend ourselves from the Communist Party have increased anti-Asian hate in the United States or anti-Chinese feelings. But also, you got to remember, if you don't establish this committee, that's racist. Because the only reason you're not establishing the committee is because of the race of the attackers. Because there's no reason not to do this except for the race of the attackers.
张家敦强调，中共特别委员会的最重大意义是这件事的紧急性、时间性，因为其实美国已经知道要做什么了，只是做不做、多快行动的问题了。
America is by far a stronger country than China. We look at the metrics and all of this, but we won't prevail because China's attacking us and we're not defending ourselves. And you can look at what's happening in China right now. Looks like their economy is contracting. COVID-19 is killing hundreds of thousands of people in China. But that means that China can become, in a very weak state, could become far more dangerous than it's been under communism. And the reason is that Xi Jinping, the Chinese ruler, realizes that he needs to unify the Chinese people. He realizes that his policies have been disasters. And the only way that he can keep power is maybe to start a war. So he can take us by surprise. And that means this is one of the most dangerous times in history. All the people who say, well, China won't invade or won't do this or won't do that, they're the same people who said that Russia wouldn't invade Ukraine. So we have to be concerned that Xi Jinping will lash out. We have no choice. Unless we want to become a Chinese colony, unless we want the Chinese to rule our country, we have no choice.
观众朋友，您如何看张家敦先生的分析呢？欢迎您留言分享。如果您喜欢这个访谈节目，就请您转发并关注或订阅这个频道。好的，感谢您的收看，我们下次节目再见。